Okay, great. Let's start the webinar. I'm super excited to welcome you to our child-friendly webinar. My name is Wayne, and I will be hosting this session. Today, our guest speaker is our founder, Laura Bancroft, who will present an overview of Child-Friendly's platform and how to address increasing federal and provincial regulations. Let's take a look at the agenda for today. First, I will introduce Laura. Then I will pass it to her to present Child-Friendly, including the inspiration behind the company, an overview of the platform, managing regulatory challenges, some of her favorite features, pricing, and where we're headed in the future. We will then have our Q&A at the end. Please submit your questions in the Q&A section, and I will organize and select the most common questions to ask at the end of the presentation. Starting with an introduction to Laura, she has significant experience in the childcare industry, overcoming the challenges to scale, grow, and dealing with regulations in the last 2 decades as she grew from overseeing 100 to now over 2,000 childcare spaces across multiple locations. She has led the design of Child-Friendly from start to finish for optimizing operations, building a platform that is intuitive for daycare operators, while maximizing efficiencies for cost savings and revenue generation. And for some quick fun facts, Laura is a mother of 11 children, enjoys listening to audiobooks and exploring the great outdoors. I will now pass it to her to present Child-Friendly. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. I really appreciate that introduction. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I know that you're all very busy with your different centers, and I appreciate you taking the time out today to come and learn a little bit more about Child-Friendly and the platform that we have to offer. And so just to begin, I want to talk a little bit about, I guess, the inspiration behind Child-Friendly, why we started this. And as Wayne mentioned, I am currently the CEO and the founder of Active Start and Magic Mountain Childcare here in Alberta. We have 2,000 spaces, licensed spaces across multiple locations, and we also have about 500 more spaces coming soon in December and 1,000 more next year. And so a few years ago, as the government, of course, was starting to talk about bringing in a national childcare program, we could see very clearly that things were going to become a lot more regulated. There's going to be a lot more red tape, and that we were going to be kind of in a bad situation in terms of trying to operate efficiently, that the amount of administration and man hours that would have to go into this was going to increase significantly. So but between that was one issue that we were seeing, and I was seeing as lead over at Active Start Magic Mountain. And the other issue I had is the systems that we were currently using just essentially weren't working for me to be able to expand. It was very clear that the software that existed in the marketplace just didn't have all the features. It was clear that they were not designed by an industry expert, I'll put it that way. And the features were seriously lacking. Some softwares would have certain features that were great, but they'd be missing other critical features. And the ones that we were using, we were kind of piecemealing together. So we would have kind of our main software for collecting payments. We'd have another one for online registration, and another one for communicating with parents, and so on, one for payroll. And they don't kind of integrate and talk to each other properly. And it was just creating a lot of issues as far as operating a center efficiently, and having our staff who go into this field wanting to work with children and share their knowledge and train educators on how to best deliver their programs effectively for quality care. They were spending so much time on paperwork and administration, and that's not why our directors and why our office staff, who are all ECEs, got into this field. We really needed a solution. And I certainly wasn't going to be expanding our companies further until we found one. So I went and I demoed pretty much every software there was. I even set up multiple of the softwares where I kind of set them up so I could see what it would look like if I was running a center. I did the full setup just to test it out very thoroughly. And again, I was just disappointed that there really wasn't a solution, and there certainly wasn't a solution for something with all the different government regulations that I could see were coming. And so Given I actually have not just background in childcare and education, but I actually have quite a bit of background in the tech industry as well. And so I partnered with some, frankly, the best developers in the country. And we together, we developed ChildFriendly. We set out on this adventure, and we are really excited to talk to you today and bring it to you and let you know more about the specifics of what ChildFriendly has to offer. So first of all, before we jump into kind of the main topics of the webinar today, which is going to be doing a demonstration of the software, specifically showing you how we can help with your monthly claims process and streamlining all those regulations as far as collecting and doing subsidy adjustments and all that goes into it, I want to give you a quick overview and just talk a little bit about the platform itself. So the platform itself, as I mentioned in kind of telling you the inspiration behind ChildFriendly, I really needed something that did it all, that had all the critical features. So really an all-in-one platform that didn't lack anything. I was tired of piecemealing different systems together to try to make up for features lacking in other systems. And so we spent the last few years, developing a software, and we weren't really willing to release kind of one feature at a time. We really wanted to make sure we had everything all ready to go. And so we did. We developed all these different features. So let's just kind of go through them real quick. We have our smart registration feature. So there's in our centers, and just so you know, we've been running this now at our centers effectively with over 2,000 licensed spaces for over a year now, and it's been night and day difference for us. But the smart registration feature ensures that, number one, all our registrations happen from our website. They're all online. Our parents don't physically sign anything. All the waivers are digital. It's all through their portal, and it's all extremely streamlined. And so we're no longer tracking down parents for signatures and things like that. It all happens automatically. So that's part of it. Our smart registration, we also have a waitlist management, same thing, completely digital. There's no scanning papers back and forth or emailing or anything like that. Really takes our front office staff out of the equation. They don't have to spend so much of their efforts calling back and dealing with all of those paperwork issues. The smart registration also makes sure your centers stay full. Now, I know that in Alberta right now with the waitlist demand that we have, perhaps that's not as big of an issue as it was a few years ago. However, essentially how the smart registration works is the system knows it can see when you have a future registration starting, what age they are. It reads all this information in an instant. And so it knows exactly how much room you have in each of your programs at any given date and time in the future. And so parents can go onto your website. They can go to register for a specific date and say, hey, I want to start on, next month on September 1st or whatnot. And there's different parameters you can put into the settings to say we only take registrations like say 3 months out or something like that. There's different things you can do. However, the parent will see then, yes, we have space available at that time, and they can go ahead and finish the registration process, and it goes into a pending file for them where you can approve the registration. Or if there's not space, because the system knows instantly whether there is or not, or will be or not, if somebody's withdrawing, the system will know instantly that a space is going to be available as of that date. Then again, it'll direct them to the waitlist where they can, again, just send in their information automatically and be added there accordingly. So we love that feature. We do not have to rely on our front office staff anymore in terms of registration. So it's been wonderful to streamline our operations. Our finance and billing, we're a full platform. So you can do all the billing through our platform. You can collect all the payments through our platform. It's all automated billing. So it's literally a click of a button every month when all your invoices are generated for the families that will be active that month with their registration. So that's a huge feature. We do pad payments, credit card payments, all that, again, all automatic. So you are not entering manually all these payments through a different system or elsewhere. We have everything's digitized and all of our reports and tracking and things like that. So as an example, one of my favorite things, or I guess my favorite brag points, I would say, about ChildFriendly is within the first month of implementing it at our centers for our beta program, we got rid of all of our filing cabinets. Our centers, of course, like many of yours, will have many, many filing cabinets. We don't have a single one anymore. We were able to remove them all because everything's digital. For example, our medication forms, all digital. Our parents sign them in their parent portal when they have a medication that they need to have us administer to their children. And then when it comes over into the admin platform, our teachers can see it. They can digitally input when they administer the medication. It gives notifications, alerts for when medication is coming due, and so on. And it all tracks and happens digitally and keeps that record forever. Very, very easy for licensing visits. Same thing with incident reporting. All of our incidents happen digitally, so staff can fill out digital incident reports. It all gets tracked. That's another concrete example for you is how we used to do it. I'm not sure how you guys do it currently, but we had paper incident reports where the staff would fill them out and parents would have to sign them. And then they would go to the office admin staff and of course in daycare, we have lots of incidents. Every little scratch gets an incident report. Our office admin staff would have to then transcribe all these incident reports into an Excel document spreadsheet, where that way we could kind of track, as per licensing regulations, we could look for patterns and issues that were happening in rooms when there was lots of incidents. We could kind of see if it's always happening at a transition time or what the reasons were for those incidents. And so she would, our office staff in each center would spend significant amount of time each day inputting incidents from the day prior. And there's just no reason for it. And so that is all digitized. Our reports, of course, we have digital reports and so on. We have a attendance module. So of course we track all of the attendance of the children, the hours that they attend our center. We know instantly at any moment in time, we can see very visually where they are in the center, what room they're in, whether they're in the gym, whether they're outside on the playground, all at a quick glance. Parents can see where they are too. So at pickup, they can go in and go directly to whichever room that they are currently in. Our attendance also shows ratio alerts, rooms turn red if they're out of ratio, things like that, so that your directors at a glance can see if there's any issues in the center and address them accordingly. One of our favorite features, my staff's, the director's probably favorite features in our attendance modules, we have a little icon that pops up if there's extra staff in a room. So when there's an extra staff that's not needed in ratio that's in a room, a little icon of a waving staff pops up so that the director can then know exactly if another room is in need of ratio, of a staff for ratio. They can quickly at a glance say, oh, there, Karen's in this room, I'll have her go into that room and relieve them. So that's a great feature too. It's also really helped make our staff schedule a lot more efficient, because we can see, at this time of day, we always seem to have extra staff, where we didn't quite realize that before because it wasn't very clear. And now we can adjust our schedule accordingly. We have a full HR system. So we, excuse me, we track all of our staff information, from their payroll information, employment information, to their first aid expiries and crim check expiries or performance reviews and so on. Again, reports can be generated at a click that show you next month if you want to see, okay, who's coming up for expiries. Oh, these are the 5 staff that need their crim checks updated, and you can see that all at a glance. So that, and of course that feeds right into our payroll as well, payroll reporting. We track all staff hours through ChildFriendly as they sign in and out of the different rooms. You can also track them by task. So let's say your bus drivers, when they're in ratio or in a room, get paid at a certain rate, but a different rate when they're driving the bus. That's no problem, because you can break down your payroll hours by task that they're doing. And then of course, last here is the parent communication module. And that is where we of course, communicate to parents through journals. So we call it journals, but it's essentially a feed. So, how long did Johnny nap that day? How much did he eat? Maybe you guys did a great classroom activity and you want to send a photo of what you guys did. All of that will go out to whichever parents your staff select to send that information to, and it goes to their journal feed in their parent portal. Likewise, there's parent communication through email and direct messaging, kind of like text messaging, but through the portal as well. So that just gives you a little overview. Some of our favorite features, I already touched on a number of these in the last slide, but essentially, digitizing everything from our family cabinets, our staff cabinets are all digital cabinets. So for instance, our contracts with our staff, those are all uploaded into the HR module so that we have their contracts digital. We have, again, no reason for filing cabinets anymore. Medication, allergies, incident reporting, illness reporting, all that digital. We talked a little bit about expiries already. The last one I just wanted to briefly mention was our school RSVP. This one's a kind of a funny one, but we had a terrible system for this before we implemented ChildFriendly. And that was that we had a whiteboard in our office, and essentially in each of our centers, and essentially when parents would call in and say, hey, we don't need you to pick up today from school, we would go and we would just write down the name and the date of the no pickup for that specific child on the whiteboard. Bus drivers would then go and take a picture before they left on the run. And needless to say, probably partway through as they are driving away, more parents would call in or email, and you hope you're checking the email in time and so on. And then you're calling the bus driver, trying to get them to make sure they also know about these 3 children that just called in. Anyway, just very subject to human error, and of course, not good in terms of the potential safety issues that come with that when you're picking up children from school. So we have a school RSVP system where parents can go into their portal at any time and they can click off what day their child doesn't need pickup that day, and there's instant update on our end on the admin side, so they can see, and bus drivers all the way from when they get to the school can just pull out their iPad and see exactly which kids are not needing pickup that day and so on. All right, so now we're going to get into the webinar itself in terms of the demonstration on how claims works through ChildFriendly and how we can really streamline that process for you. So I'm just going to jump over here for a minute into our ChildFriendly platform. So in our platform, you're going to see on the left-hand side here all of our different modules. So, there's that staff module I mentioned with the HR, communicate, that's where the journals, emails, things like that are for parents, attendance, and so on. And in today's demonstration, I'm not going to go through all these modules. We are specifically, again, going to focus on the claims process with Alberta subsidy and claims. So we're going to be spending our time in these 2 modules. So first, let's start with reports. So we're going to jump over here to the report section. And just before I get into that, I just forgot to mention, for those of you that have multiple centers like ours, it's very easy and quick to switch between centers. There's just a drop down here and you can switch, no matter how many centers you have, you can just switch instantly between them. So very, very helpful if you're scaling or growing your businesses that way. Anyway, back to reports. So we're going to kind of go through this in the same way you would at your center. So let's say it is the end of the month and you are wanting to submit your claims through the Alberta portal, government portal. So what you would do is you go into this section here that we specifically have called region reports. If I jump into region reports, we're talking about Alberta right now as opposed to another province. So this is specifically set for Alberta. But if you go into region reports, you're going to see all these Alberta reports that you are going to recognize very shortly. So the first thing I might do is, if I'm doing my claim, is I'm going to go to my Alberta 100 hours report. I'm going to click off. I want to see Alberta, I want to filter by children with Alberta subsidy. And then there's this little toggle, include or exclude. So it shows you right here, right now, the way we're filtering, it's going to show all children who do have a billing in the selected period for Alberta subsidy. So we know that the government in their claims portal requires us to separate children when we're claiming the affordability grant by whether they're on subsidy versus whether they're not on subsidy. So you need to see that report separately, and that's what you have to input into the system. So right now, I'm just going to click apply. And this is going to show, you should recognize this report because it looks identical to what you're going to see in the government claims portal. But it, again, is showing all children that have a billing or where Alberta subsidy is being billed during the period that you've selected, which in this case is September. So in here, you can see even further, if you want to break it down further, you can even click in here and you can see every child that there is as that's counting in that number. And you can also do by registration type. So for those of you that do overnight care, as an example, there's the regular/extended care versus the overnight care, which is one of the things that, of course, the government requires you to submit when you put these into your claim system. So you can filter further that way if that's what your center offers. So same thing, if I want to see now, if I don't want to see the children on Alberta subsidy, I want to see my non-subsidized children, I just toggle that, click apply, and the report changes and shows me just the children that are not on Alberta subsidy. And again, I can click in. Very nice for audits as well. If, back in September, you do your claim, you input all this into your claims portal for the government, and then they come back 6 months later and say, hey, I want to know exactly how many of those kinder children that you submitted claims for, which children specifically were you submitting claims for? Well, easy enough. You just jump back here to the applicable date range, click into here and send this. It's all exportable by CSV, send it off to whoever's doing the audit, and they have the information they requested. So very, very easy in terms of dealing with potential audits, as we know that's becoming more and more common now. So that's the first report. Of course, if you are a preschool, there's the exact same report, but for the preschool version of it. I don't believe I have any data currently in this demo center for that, so I'm not going to show you that report, but it's, of course, if you're a preschool, you know what it looks like. It's pretty much identical to the 100 hours report, but specific to preschool. One thing I forgot to mention, sorry, on here is that these numbers and how they're calculated is based on the registration and not the actual hours they attended. As we know, in Alberta, subsidy is based on actual hours when you apply for, or when you do your claim for subsidy and have to put in the number of hours a child attended. But for the affordability grant, it is based on what they are registered to attend, not what they actually attended. So that's an important note because obviously that would change your numbers if it was the other way around. And that, of course, is an Alberta regulation. So now let's talk about the subsidy claim. So you've submitted your grants into the claim portal. Now you want to submit specifically the hours and information for your children that are on subsidy. So again, I just click the sponsor I'm wanting to see. I'm wanting to see children on Alberta subsidy. Let's say September again, and I click apply. So in this report, you will see that we have all the information, the identical information that the Alberta government asks through their claim portal. So you got your last name, your first name, your date of birth, which they'll ask, especially if it's the first time you're putting that child in, you're going to need that information. Age program, the registration type, so the regular/extended care or the overnight care, whatever program type it is. If there's a withdraw date, their regular hours here. So how many regular hours did they attend versus how many hours, extended hours they attended. And that's, of course, defined under the Alberta guidelines, what extended versus regular hours are. And our system follows those same guidelines. And then the total hours here, you're going to see at a glance what their gross previous month fee was. Of course, you have to enter that information when you submit your claim. You need to see the current month fee, so inclusive of the affordability grant. And then you need to see the actual subsidized portion, and that they'll ask you for that as well. And then this is just a convenient column here too, so that you can see at a glance when their subsidy is expiring, and of course can update it under the child's records accordingly in ChildFriendly when they've reached their expiry, or when you notice in the Alberta claims portal that the expiry date has changed. So that's convenient too. You can filter these exactly the same way as the claims has them filtered through the government, so that every line is identical and you can just go in the order that they have them in their system. So very, very easy to do our claims. It went from hours each month for us, where we were pulling different attendance reports, and oh, now we got to look up birthdays, and now we got to look up what their fees are for that child. And we had all these different reports we were trying to gather together in order to submit those claims each month. Now it's all in just this one report for the subsidy portion and one report for the grant portion, all identical to what do they require in the claims portal from the government. So it has turned our claims into, 20 minutes to an hour each month, depending on the size of our centers. Please note that I do have a lot of zeros in here. That's just because this is a demo center. Obviously, if this was a real center where we had actual attendance entered for all these children, these would actually be showing hours each month. But because this is a demonstration, we don't have a ton of data uploaded for that purpose at this point. All right, so let's say we've gone ahead now, we've submitted our claim, and now we're ready to, it's been, a couple weeks, and now the government has paid us for the claim that we had submitted at the end of the previous month. So we've submitted for, let's say, September, and now it's October 16th, and they have deposited our claim amount into our bank account, and we can go online and see the printout of the claim and what we actually received. So that's step 2 of the process. So in that, we're going to jump over to the finance module. So before I talk too much more on the claims, I just want to give you a quick orientation. I know that's not, we're not demoing the finance module today, but in order to understand how the claims process works, you do need to have a little bit of an understanding of the finance module. So I'll do a quick little orientation on this. But essentially, you've got different columns here. This column here is your registration column. So I'm going to actually just jump and give you an example. Let's say, sorry, I just have some filters on that I got to remove real quick. Okay, so the registration column here, this column is not necessarily children that have been billed, it's children that have a registration in the period that you have filtered for. So in November, if I scroll through here, these are all the children in our center that will be current as of November. It shows you the program, it shows you the amount of fees that you're expected to collect for this child. And then when you're ready to generate your billings for the month and actually invoice these families, that's when you're going to click this button and you're going to generate billings either with credits or without credits. With credits being if they have credits on their account because they overpaid from a previous month and you want to apply it to the bill, that's what you'd use that for. And if you don't want to use their credits, then you just generate without credits. So that's what the billings column is. And then of course it's going to split it into multiple invoices. I'm not going to show you that right now. I just wanted to give you a feel for what it looks like. So we're going to jump back to September. And here you can see an example of where we have generated our billings for the month for all of our children. And then, so you can see this billing, here's the total bill we expect of this family. And then our invoices. So how is this bill split up? And again, this happens all automatically based on what you have put in the child's auto payment breakdown. So in this case, this child is set up so that they have a $200 amount coming out from subsidy every month, and they have a amount being billed to subsidy, each month, and then it looks like they've split 50-50 between 2 parents, and so parent 1 is paying $450, parent 2 is paying $450. So that's how their bills are split. The parents in the parent portal, of course, will see their portion of these bills, and they can make payments directly, or you can make payments through here. For instance, this parent was set up on pre-authorized debit, and so you can see this payment was made automatically here. And so on. So that's a little kind of, this is essentially your payment column here. So that's a little quick orientation. So now we're going to jump onto what we were talking about before, which is the claims process. So I'm going to jump over here to October. And in here, you're going to see, so sorry, jumping back, when we get that claim deposited to our bank account, then we're going to come in here and we're going to say, okay, so in October, I'm going to filter here under the invoices first. So step 1 is to filter. So let's find just our Alberta subsidy families that are on Alberta subsidy. And we're going to apply that filter. So now I can see every invoice that was ever sent to Alberta subsidy for the month of October. And then what I'm going to do now is that let's say it's November 16th, and the payment has come through. I'm going to go through here. I'm going to click off all these invoices. I'm going to do a bulk manual payment. Now, I know, just to pause there, I know that maybe some of these invoices, actually, we only received $50 because they were shorted hours, or whatever the reason may be. We didn't get our full expected amount, or we received more than we expected. Whatever the case may be, at this step, it doesn't matter. You're just saying, I'm going to put in a bulk payment. We're going to reconcile at the next step. For all of these, we received our deposit for our Alberta subsidy payments. We received it, what month am I doing? October. So it's likely I received it, let's say, on the 15th of November to our bank account, and they paid us directly deposit to our bank account, and I click submit. So instantly, well, not quite instantly, you'll see the little bar going. It's just entering all those individual payments for those subsidy invoices. And as soon as it's done here, we'll go to the reconciliation step where I'll show you how we reconcile to make sure we actually received what we had invoiced. So now that we've done that, you can see it automatically made a payment on all of these subsidy invoice. Here's an example. Now I go into the settlement up here. So that's under processing. Now I'm in settlement. So that was a November 16th payment. So I apply. You can see all your payments here. So all these Alberta subsidy payments that I just put through are all here. So here's the step where you take the claim that you go into your portal and you have your, whether you print it or have it on your second screen or however you do it, and you compare the two. So you look at your receipt of what the government actually paid you per child, and you go through it. And so you say, okay, this child here, I did receive the $200, so I'm happy. I'm going to check them off. So they're good. This child, John, I also received $200. Check. Oh, this child, I received $200. And then this child, May, no, I did not receive $200. So what I say is, let's say they actually only paid me $50. So if they only paid me $50, I'm going to put $50 in here, and I'm going to click this button called Reconcile. And so under Reconcile here, you can see the system automatically will change the amount that was invoiced to subsidy to $50. So it'll update it. It'll update it to $50, but then it's asking, but what do I do with the other $150? So you still want to collect $200. You just only were able to get $50 from subsidy. And now it's asking you, so what do I do with the next $150? Well, I have different options. So I can say, well, actually, Alberta subsidy does owe us that money. They should be paying that money. So I'm going to put in a subsidy adjustment for that money. And there's a report you can pull to show all your subsidy adjustments. But so you're going to say, yeah, Alberta subsidy still owes that money, and you click update. So it's going to create another invoice, change the first invoice to 50, change the second invoice to 150 for the subsidy adjustment. And then of course you can put that into your claims portal. However, if let's say that you are shorted the hours, you're not going to be able to collect from Alberta subsidy, and it's actually the family. Any authorized sponsors to the family will show up here. So right now in this family, the only one set up to as a sponsor is Bob. So Bob is going to be the one that we bill that 152, and we click update. So when we click update, you can see it instantly updated the amount we processed. And of course, the amount we received was $50. And so now I'm happy with that. I can check it off. And I just want to show you real quick, everything kind of links really conveniently. So if I click this little button without leaving the screen, it shows me this family's finances instantly. And so we were looking at their October. So if I go over here, you can see it actually updated it in their finance system. So essentially, just like we did in the Reconcile, Alberta subsidy, regular tuition was $200 that was billed to Alberta subsidy. However, there was an underpayment adjustment on that invoice of $150 because they didn't pay it. And so we only processed the $50. Which is what that came to. However, there's another 150 invoice that goes to Bob for $150. So now there's no payment associated with this. You can easily filter and see any outstanding payments in your bulk finance module, and you can then collect from Bob however you want. If you set up for auto payment, then you can actually just click this button and take it from his bank account. But if that's what you've got set up for him. So that's essentially how you do it. You go through once you're happy with the entire claim, and you've gone through all of your families, and the total deposit amount matches what you have on your claim form. You put in the date of whatever the deposit was. So we're saying, I can't remember what we said, November 15th was the day that you deposited this all, or the government deposited it, I should say, into your bank account. You create that deposit, so it lumps it all together. And then the nice thing about this, it just takes a second here, and it'll go into the deposited tab above there. So now it's gone from processed and now it's actually been deposited. So if I search for my November deposits, you can see it's right here. I can see the breakdown. And if I made a mistake, no problem. If I need to fix something, I can just click here and I can revert it back to the next step, fix it, and then deposit it again so that it's done that way. The great thing is that we actually sync to QuickBooks. So if you use QuickBooks Online, these deposits will sync over perfectly. So when you go to do your reconciliations each month, it'll be very easy because the amount of the deposit will be identical to what you have on your bank statement and so on. We also have transaction reports. So if you use a different system, you're not currently using QuickBooks, you can export all the transactions in ChildFriendly and import them into whatever accounting software that you utilize. So that's really a handy feature as well. So that's a little bit about our claims and how our monthly claim system works. Again, extremely fast. It takes us practically no time at all each month to do our claims. And so, you know, we're really, really happy with how much administration hours we have been able to cut by implementing ChildFriendly. And we hope that you will potentially do the same. So I'm going to jump back over here to our presentation. And we're making good time here, but I want to make sure we have enough time at the end here to really get into your questions and answers. So we're going to jump over to our next slide, which is just talking about our how you get ChildFriendly in terms of what is the cost to you as operators if you decide to go and sign up for ChildFriendly. So one of the great things about ChildFriendly is we don't actually charge a subscription fee. So unlike other softwares where you're going to be paying a monthly fee per child or per room, or how it depends on the, you know, everyone does it differently, you won't have to pay anything. You could sign up tomorrow. You don't even need to enter a credit card or anything, and you could be, you know, already in the platform and setting up your center if that's what you choose. Where our fees come in is we actually are the merchant. So we have merchant fee pricing basically. So essentially for our pad payments, if you are processing automatic payments through ChildFriendly, you're going to pay 1% of the 1% of whatever you're charging your families will go to ChildFriendly. For credit cards, it's, you know, industry standard as well, 3.75% plus 30 cents a transaction. However, the great thing is you can also, we do this at our centers, is we have a fee pass-through option. So in Canada, you're allowed to pass through up to 2.4% of your merchant charges onto the consumer. And that's what we do at our centers. So and this all happens automatically, but if you, in your settings, you have the option to select the merchant fee pass-through, and essentially when your parents pay by PAD or credit card, it will essentially bill them that extra merchant fee amount so that you, the center, aren't paying that cost, and it just gets passed through to the consumer. They pay it and it goes to ChildFriendly directly. So essentially, if you do this, you can more or less have ChildFriendly for free. You can also turn off credit card payments if you don't want those on. In settings, you don't have to accept credit card payments, but it is an option. And then the other thing I would just mention is, you know, we actually not only essentially do we get ChildFriendly for free through our centers because we do the merchant pass-through fee system, but we actually saved quite a few thousand a month just from being able to cancel all our other subscriptions, because we had 3 or 4 different softwares we used to try to kind of piecemeal together a system that would work. And once we had ChildFriendly, we didn't need those. So if you use things like QuickBooks time tracking, for instance, to do your payroll, well, you don't need that time tracking. That's a significant cost that you have to pay each month for each employee for that, because you can just use ChildFriendly. If you use Time Saver, or if you use whatever systems you use, you can save quite a bit by canceling those subscriptions once you're on ChildFriendly. And last slide here before we get to the Q&A section of our webinar is a look to the future. So the great thing about ChildFriendly is that as the industry expert in the product lead design in ChildFriendly, and as well as still operating and being at the forefront in a childcare company, I always know exactly what's coming coming next. I always know what we need as childcare operators. And so we at ChildFriendly can make sure that we have the industry expertise to make sure that all the new features that we continually add or update to our system are what the industry actually needs and not what kind of is the best guess of a developer. And so that is a really crucial point in our system to make sure that we really are the cutting edge, that we stay on top, and that we give you the features that you want. So with that, we do have our newest feature coming on board, and that's coming late 2024. It's our learning module. So we're really excited about this feature. We'll do another webinar to introduce it once it's ready. But essentially what it is it's going to be a lesson. We're digitizing all of our lesson plans. And our curriculum. So if you use Flight or whatever curriculum you use, you can upload it into the system, and then your staff can make program, weekly plans, lesson plans, all digitized. There's going to be a lesson plan library, so they can pick from that library, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. And then they can make their program plans accordingly, and it'll be all digitized. And it'll also be all shared with the families through the portal, so that they can see how much work and what you're doing with their children. It'll also have a report card feature, portfolios feature, things like that. So progress reports and so on that can be digitally shared. And it'll have as well as calendars, so classroom calendars, newsletters, and so on. So we're really excited about this edition. And now we'll jump in to our questions for me. So just before I turn it over to Wayne, who's been monitoring the questions coming through the chat, and he's going to ask me your questions, and I'll do my best to answer. Just before I do that, I just want to mention again that you are welcome after this demo or this webinar. You're welcome to go to our website. You can book a demo if you want. If you have more questions and you want some one-on-one and to really dive deeply into all the other features that I mentioned, not just the claims system. And that can all be done directly from our website. If you are wanting to just jump in and sign up, you can do that as well directly from our website. All right, Wayne, so let me know what our first question is.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Laura. Yeah, everyone, if you can head over to the Q&A sections, and if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I see there are a couple of folks with their hands raised. I'm not sure if you guys can see the icon at the top. There's a Q&A icon. If you have any questions, please drop it in the chat. Right now we have one question. This question is, wondering about inputting initial information for claims. Does the platform interact with the government platform, or are staff still inputting manually? Are these reports simply summaries and then staff still submit through the portal as usual?
So no, it doesn't interact with the claims system yet. The Alberta government, we are working closely with them actually as we speak. And their system unfortunately doesn't have open API yet at the government level. They're working on that. As soon as they release open API, which essentially means that our tech system and other tech systems would be able to talk to their system. That's what API essentially is. It's a kind of a connector. As soon as they do that, then we're already working with them. So we're ready to go and to make it so that it will sync directly with their system. However, until then, no, it does not sync directly. Your staff will still have to go into the online claims portal and the government and enter the information. The difference is now that the reports are identical to what the government asks for. So it's literally just a matter of copying it over, as opposed to trying to gather that information from multiple sources and coming up with your own kind of system and then entering it. So it saves a lot of time.
Great. Susan has a couple questions. She would just like me to unmute her to ask them to you directly. 1 second here. Okay, let me just.
Unfortunately, I don't think the webinar is set right now in the settings to unmute. I think the only option is through the chat.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, attendees can't be unmuted through
Sorry
webinars.
about that.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry about that, Suzanne. Would you be able to just drop a couple on the chat if that's okay? That we just don't have to set up for unmuting the mic in this meeting. Okay, just a couple other questions. Does this program offer payroll calculation or just time tracking?
It does not do payroll calculation. It just does time tracking. So you will still require, we use, for example, QuickBooks payroll, and then we just put in the hours into QuickBooks directly into their payroll system. And so you'll need some other system right now for all your government payroll remittances and vacation and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, the next question. This one's a little bit vague. Are staff and children per center or for the whole company? That's the question.
So the staff and children, maybe I'll just jump to the demo here. So just so I'm understanding the question correctly, when you're talking about children and staff, you're talking about these modules that contain the information of the children and staff?
Well, sorry, I got a bit more follow-up on that question.
Oh.
For example, if a staff works at multiple centers, do they have 2 profiles?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yes, currently the way it's set up, they would have multiple, actually, just let me think about that for a second. If they're a room staff, yes, they would. So room staff have to have a profile in each center that they are in. So if they're kind of your frontline staff there, if they're administrator staff, no, they cannot. You can set their access so that they just have the one profile and they have access to multiple centers is how it's set up currently.
Great. Okay, for the next question. What is your backup plan if data doesn't work if school pickups? Not too sure.
If like the iPad doesn't work or the internet or what's?
Hi, Susan, can you elaborate maybe a little bit more on your question? Thank you. I'll just go to the next one in the meanwhile. Is there a minimum amount of payment invoicing that is required? Is there a sign-up fee?
There is not. There is no sign-up fee. There is no minimum amount of pad payments or anything like that. So it's only if you use that part of our system, then you would pay the merchant fee on it.
Great. Okay. I have another question here. Does staff have level access to, I guess, certain parts of the platform? Yeah, different, the access levels, yeah. Okay.
Sorry, Wayne, I didn't catch that. What was that question?
Just as the staff have level access to certain, well, it says child friendly, but
different access levels, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's different permission levels based on the staff's role. So for instance, obviously you're not going to necessarily want your room staff to be able to see all the financial records as an example of your families. Whereas your accounts manager, you are going to want that information. So yes, there is multiple permission levels depending on what the role is of the staff.
Okay, Randall has quite a few questions. I will just ask a couple, just a couple on his list. maybe we'll get to the rest later if there's time at the end. One question is, okay, does it integrate with QuickBooks? We have, yes, it does integrate with QuickBooks. Integrates with what banks for billing and invoicing?
So that actually all happens through us. So we have a third-party processor. It's called Rotessa for our pad payments. But you don't need to integrate with any banks. It'll happen directly. You just enter your bank account information of where you want us to deposit the funds, and it'll automatically, as you process those invoices and payments, then the funds for the fees will get automatically deposited to your bank account through our processor. So no need to integrate with any banks.
Okay, maybe I'll just pick a couple more questions from Randall's list here. The GLA is planning on changing their portal. How long would it take to adapt? The government of Alberta. Yeah. The
government, yes. Yeah. Yes, I am very much involved in that process with the government. I'm at the front line there. So as they make those changes, we will adapt very quickly, as in within weeks type thing. So we're at the front line there. That's the great thing about this being an Alberta-based launch, is that we're very quick and mobile that way.
Okay. Is this the responsive design for web browsers or an app?
It is both. So the administration side of it is definitely better for a web or for a computer, right? To work on a computer through a web browser. So if you're doing billing and all that stuff, your office staff are going to be using a computer for the most part. However, your room staff for their side of things will not be using a computer. They would be using the app. So they're going to have, there's an app they download from the Apple Store or Google Play, and then they can access things that they need, such as attendance and so on, through the app.
Okay, just one last question from Randall, and then I will go on to the next attendee's question. How do you know who is in what classroom? And yeah.
That's a great question. So I don't really have time today to give a demo on the attendance, but essentially, if you want to book a demo after this, we would love to go through it with you and show you very specifically what that looks like. But essentially how we've designed it is that you make kind of a floor plan, I would say, of your center. And then you can see all your rooms at a glance. And if you click into the room, you can get all the details of exactly which child's in there. There's also the option, you can always search. There's a search bar where you just search for a specific child's name. So say somebody comes into the center looking for Johnny and you want to see, oh, I'm not sure if he's in the gym or in his home room or where he is. You can either click the rooms and kind of look for him that way, or you can actually just use the search bar, look up Johnny, and it'll flag him and show you exactly where he is. But again, we can go through all of that in a demo and actually show you the system.
Okay, great. I'll just move on to the next attendee. Just one more question from Susan. Can you charge late pickups?
Yes, you can. You can set up any custom fees that you want. So late pickups would be a good example of that. NSF fees. So if you charge certain dollars for NSF fees, like $40 for bounce charge, things like that, you can set up as many custom catalog items as you want, and then charge accordingly.
Okay. Okay, let me move on to Melissa's question. If a child moves from one center to another, do we have to set them up again under the second center?
You do at this point. However, we know that it's a feature actually that we need to in our centers, because we do have some movement, and we are putting that's on our very near term launch, where you won't have to do that, where you'll be able to just change the center that the child's in. But currently, yes, you would have to set them up separately under the new center.
Okay. Okay, yeah, okay. Going back to Randall's questions. Are there pictures in parent communication like Bright Wheel?
Yes, yeah, you can, and there's no limit for the number of pictures you send. So for instance, I know Lilio, formerly Hi Mama, they have a limit on the number of images that you can attach and so on like that, or there's an extra charge or something. We don't have any limit. So yes, you can send pictures, you can send PDFs as well. So if you have a document you want to send through the journal, you can do that as well. You can attach really anything you need to attach.
Is pricing 1% of all revenue or just from parents? And is there bulk pricing, I believe is what he's asking.
Bulk pricing we can certainly discuss, but as far as, and that would be a separate conversation, kind of depending on the size of your operations. But it is not for gross revenue or gross fees. It is based on only the fees you process. So obviously, for example, you're not going to process government payments, subsidized payments through PAD or credit card. That comes directly deposited by the government. And so you're not going to be paying anything for that. It would just be the parent portion of fees that you're actually charging directly to the parent that you're paying the merchant fee on.
Okay, great. Okay, so to follow up on Susan's previous question, if the internet doesn't work, if staff is out doing school pickups or parks, what is the backup plan?
So what we do at our centers, I mean, everyone might have their own, but we actually use iPads for our buses that have cell chips in them. So when we just do a shared data plan is do it, and that way we know that they'll always have cell reception. I guess in the worst case, we've never had it happen where they haven't had cell reception on a bus run, but let's say there's emergency and cell reception goes down in that area for some reason. I guess they wouldn't actually be able to call you on their cell phone either if that happened, so you'd be kind of in trouble that way, but we've never had that happen. But yeah, I would suggest using a cellular chip in your iPads for that.
You have onboarding support. How does transitioning work if we want to move our information to ChildFriendly?
Yes, good question. So we do have onboarding support, absolutely. We have designed ChildFriendly. That being said, we have designed ChildFriendly so that in the setup module, where you set up, you can import all your families. So if you download them into a .csv file or something like that from your current system, you can upload them through the setup. It's pretty straightforward, the setups of ChildFriendly. So we really wanted it so that if you don't want to talk to somebody, if you don't want to have somebody help you, that those that wanted kind of that independence could. And so it's set up in that way, very user-friendly. You can get yourself set up and going. However, if you would prefer our onboarding team to meet with you and help you through the process and go through it with you, there's no fee for that. We are happy to do it, and you will be assigned a specific onboarding agent who will work with you through that process. But it's pretty straightforward. Our centers are quite large. We have a few hundred children in each center, in most of our centers, and in there we were set up within, I think we started the process and within a week we were up and running. So, and that was just, it was probably maybe 15 man hours to get all of our kids over and everything ready to go, and we were good to go.
Okay, there's a follow-up question on the previous one regarding the merchant fees. It says, your platform collects the payments, takes off the fees, and then sends our program. What is left? Maybe Laura, you want to just clarify the
Yeah, so depending on whether you're doing the pass-through fee or not. So if you are collecting, let's say you're collecting $200 for the parents' portion of their fees for that month, then you're going to, and it's through PAD, let's say you're doing a PAD agreement with that parent, then what will happen is the $200 minus the 1%, so $2, minus the $2, so you'll get $198 will be deposited minus, sorry, it's 1% plus 30 cents. Sorry. Anyway, so the approximately $198 will be deposited to your bank account directly, and the other $2.30 will be deposited, will come to ChildFriendly. If you're doing the pass-through fee where the parents are paying that extra charge, then they're going to be paying the $202.30 is what they're going to see leave their account. You're going to receive the full $200, and then ChildFriendly has their fee, which is the $2.30. So hopefully that clarifies that for you.
Great, thank you so much. Sorry, we're running out of time. For any of those questions that we didn't get to, I'll be sure to reach out and provide follow-up answers on those. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone, so much for your time. We're going to end it now, and we really, really appreciate you coming, and it was a pleasure to talk to you guys. And again, feel free to book a demo for some one-on-one. We can get through as many questions as you would like. We'll be doing another webinar next month on a different topic, but in the meantime, those demos are a great way to get your questions answered. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.